a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad to have you with us on the program today. Apologies, by the way, I did not mean to take yesterday off from the program. And I did not take yesterday off in terms of work. There was still plenty of fresh content up at Bearing Arms on Monday, but my colleague Tom Knighton was under the weather, so he wasn't working. My beloved wife, Miss E, got down with the chemo crud, so she was stuck in bed. So all of a sudden, my day got really, really busy, and it just did not have the opportunity to do a show yesterday. However, we're going to make it up to you today because we've got a fantastic program and a fantastic guest. Dr. Manny Sethi is going to be with us here in just a matter of moments. Now, Dr. Sethi is an orthopedic trauma surgeon at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, but he is also running for U.S. Senate in the state of Tennessee. There is a primary coming up in just a couple of weeks in the Republican primary. It is widely expected that whoever wins the Republican primary will go on to win the general election in the state of Tennessee, which is, a pretty conservative place. So not a lock solid guarantee that the winner of the Republican primary will go on to become the next U.S. Senator. But, the odds are pretty good. And I ran across a story about Dr. Sethi. I guess this was probably maybe a week and a half or so ago. And it was from a small town paper in Tennessee covering a campaign stop by Dr. Sethi. And I was fascinated by what I learned about this gentleman. The son of immigrants who were rural doctors in Tennessee, a staunch pro-Second Amendment advocate, somebody who had talked extensively about the fact that he was a concealed carry holder, does not support red flag laws. And that kind of intrigued me. Again, as a medical professional, we know that there are pro-gun doctors. But how should I say it? They're sometimes hard to find because I think that the standard point of view within the medical community is, well, we need more gun control laws. So I was intrigued by what I had read about Dr. Sethi. There was a moment where I thought, okay, he's talking about he's got his concealed carry license. He's opposed to red flag. That's great, but those aren't the only issues. So I actually reached out to his campaign and said, hey, I'd like to talk to this guy if possible. But I also have a question. What about things like, assault weapon bans, quote unquote, or bans on, quote unquote, large capacity magazines? Where does the doctor stand on this? Thinking maybe, all right, well, maybe he's talking about concealed carry and red flag laws because he does support these things, but he's running for office as a Republican, doesn't want to play. Nope, that wasn't the case at all. I heard back from the campaign within about 15 minutes saying, yeah, let's get you on the schedule. We'll try to get the interview going. And by the way, here's a quote from Dr. Manny about red flag or about gun bans and magazine bans. And no, he doesn't support those either. In essence, Dr. Manny Sethi's point of view is gun control is not the way to go about addressing violent crime. Okay, we're in agreement. And so had the opportunity to sit down today and talk a little bit more with Dr. Manny Sethi about how he came to his point of view, what he does believe is more effective than gun control and certainly more constitutional than gun control in terms of reducing violent crime and protecting our Second Amendment rights. It's a great conversation, and take a look and a listen. Dr. Manny Sethi, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. It's good talking with you today.
Oh, thank you for having me, brother. I am grateful.
Absolutely. So you are running for U.S. Senate in the state of Tennessee. We've got the primary coming up here in about, 3 weeks or so? Is that right?
That's right. Early voting starts Friday.
Oh, okay. So there you go. It's not just election day now. We've got election weeks. What made you decide that that this is something that you wanted to do, given the toxic political environment that we see these days? What made you decide? All right, you know what? I'm gonna throw my stethoscope into the ring here, and I'm gonna run for office.
Well, for me, it's all about doing something greater than yourself in life and what the Lord calls you to do. My parents were immigrants to this country. They came here with nothing, and I was blessed to be born in America. I grew up in rural Tennessee, watching my parents doctor to farmers, and I've lived the American dream and been a trauma surgeon for 10 years, created a nonprofit called Healthy Tennessee about 9 years ago, taking care of patients across the state. But I just feel called to make a different kind of difference, and I think this open U.S. Senate seat is a real generational opportunity to help people, to be a voice, to protect our Second Amendment rights, to protect our constitutional rights, and that's why I'm running.
One of the things that struck me about your story, Dr. Sethi, is the fact that you are a trauma surgeon, a orthopedic trauma surgeon, and yet you are also a staunch Second Amendment advocate. So often we see members of the medical community come out talking about, looking at gun violence as a public health issue, looking for, gun control laws that they believe that they can, stop the violence. You are very much an outspoken Second Amendment advocate, and yet you are treating gunshot victims. You see the damage that can be done by firearms firsthand. I'm curious, what led you to support the Second Amendment as opposed to embracing the idea of more gun laws?
Well, first of all, my whole life, I was raised in a very conservative home, and I grew up around farmers, hunters, folks who recreational use of firearms. But I really gained an appreciation very deeply for the Second Amendment when I had a death threat against me. More than about 6 years ago, someone threatened my family and me, and the police wouldn't do much about it. The hospital wouldn't do much about it. So I went and got firearms training. I got a Glock 19, got a carry permit, and to protect my family. And that's why the Second Amendment exists. And right now, with all this unrest in our cities and our streets, I think it's incumbent upon every household to take care of themselves, protect themselves. And that's why the Second Amendment exists. And I very much believe it. And the other thing I just tell you is this. I have said this for many, many years as a trauma surgeon. Look, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. And you talk about saying this for many years. As I was doing a little bit of research on your background, I ran across a story, I think it was from 2013, a program that you and a colleague had put together at Vanderbilt University Medical Center that went into middle schools and actually taught de-escalation tactics. It taught kids the proper way to respond when you're being bullied or when folks are going after you. And what I thought was so amazing about this is, the before and after the kids went through this program, the evidence showed that there was less bullying, that there were fewer threats, that there was less of an inclination to bring a gun to school. This seemed like, and again, this is back in 2013 that you did this, and it just seemed remarkable to me that, again, you've got this attitude that is so rare to find, at least it's rare for me to find in the medical community, of let's go after what's actually causing the violence. Let's deal with the people. Let's deal with the individuals here, as opposed to simply trying to ban our way to safety.
You're exactly right. And what's bothered me about politicians for the longest time, especially these career politicians and the Washington insiders, they just try to simplify every issue so that people can sleep at night with their little teddy bear and not worry, oh, we're going to pass gun laws and everything's going to get better. But that's just not true, Cam. And what I saw on the front lines of taking care of trauma patients was that there was a much deeper issue than anything dealing with guns. And that's our current social situation. That these children, they're on social media. They're not talking to one another. They don't know how to really calmly and peacefully work through conflict. So I just noticed that the conflicts were getting heated very quickly. And so we created this conflict resolution thing to teach kids how to just simply talk things out. And the data is like what you said, lower suspension rates, lower violence rates, people feeling more safe in school. And that's what I think we need to have in this country, is a meaningful conversation about why we are at where we are at. It's not about the guns. That's just some politician's way of trying to act like they're doing something. If they really wanted to do something, let's talk about the deeper issues. And as a physician, as someone who's run this nonprofit called Healthy Tennessee for 9 years, that's what I've always been interested in, is prevention. And so like, let's get on the front side of this problem. And the front side is just talking about some of these, very complicated problems of kids and broken homes who just don't feel there's anybody there that loves them, that cares for them, nobody to kind of talk to them about these issues. People aren't going to church. And so we got to delve much deeper into these complex problems that society faces, brother. It's not about trying to trample on our Second Amendment rights. It's just not going to help anybody.
Well, and it's fascinating that you talk about this, because I agree completely. And we're actually seeing sort of a moment within the gun control movement right now, thanks to things like, defund police and the Black Lives Matter movement, where now, gun control advocates are starting to back away from the idea of policing. They're not coming right out and saying, okay, listen, we were wrong about banning guns and magazines and trying to, require gun licenses. But every one of their proposals actually requires armed enforcement by the state. And so at this moment where the left is now, well, we need to defund police, we need to reimagine policing, do you think that will ultimately have an impact on support for gun control among the left? Might we get back to a point where support for the right to keep and bear arms is more bipartisan, and we can actually, again, focus on the individuals who are driving violent crime and pursue that instead of trying to, simply ban all the guns in the United States?
I don't know. I think that the Democrats and the left are just a party that is unrecognizable to me now, where they were 20 years ago. I mean, let me just say this. Back in when I was a little kid, I remember watching George Bush 41 and take on Bill Clinton, and they had very different views on things. But it was very different than today, when you just see a group of people who I just believe hate America, very frankly. And when they talk about defunding the police, trampling on our Constitution, I just believe that in the hands of Democrats, they want to do everything in their power to take away people's guns. Many of them want to defund our police and put them at a disadvantage. And I don't think that's right. I think, again, our law enforcement are such good people. As a trauma surgeon, I've taken care of so many police officers who have taken bullets for white citizens, for black citizens. And I've had to tell their families about what happened, caring for them. And I just take this issue very personally. And what I don't think we need to do is to further disadvantage those people who put their lives on the line every day. I think rather we need to help and support them. And when I'm your next U.S. Senator, there will be no daylight between me and our law enforcement.
Talking again with Dr. Manny Sethi, running for U.S. Senate in the state of Tennessee. I've got to ask you, Dr. Sethi, on occasion, I'll daydream about running for office here in the state of Virginia. And honestly, one of the things that really appeals to me is getting to travel around the state and actually meeting people. How has that experience been running for office, getting to go? Have you been able to go to places in Tennessee that are on the map, but you've never visited before? And what has it been like to actually interact with Tennesseans, across the state as you've conducted your campaign?
Well, it's been incredible. So for the last 9 years, I've traveled a lot of Tennessee, taking care of patients, getting them on the front side of their health with this nonprofit we created called Healthy Tennessee. And President Trump heard about this. He invited me to the White House because he wanted to learn about it. But over the last year, I've traveled all 95 counties almost twice. And what I've learned is that the people in Tennessee are just incredible people. And everybody's got a life story that they want to share, a wife or husband they love, kids that they're proud of, and they just want the best for their kids and for our country. And they deeply love our country. And 90%, what I've learned is that 90% of who we are is a shared story. And that's the beauty of America. That's the power of this country. And so what we got to do is we got to come together as a nation right now. We can't let groups like Antifa and all these people tear us apart. But that is the thing I've really learned over the last 18 months, is that what an incredible place Tennessee is. And the people are just amazing.
Well, listen, I do appreciate you coming on the program, and I greatly appreciate your perspective as a medical professional. Again, somebody who has working, very intimately in this area, and yet you are very outspoken in your support for the right to keep and bear arms. You know that there's a better way to help people than by passing these gun control laws. Would love to have you back. And again, you said early voting starts on Friday. Primary is August 6th? Is that correct?
August 6th. That's right.
All right. See, even in Virginia, I know the Tennessee primary date. Would love to have you back again in the future. And Dr. Manny Sethi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck, sir.
God bless. Thank you.
I appreciate Dr. Manny Sethi joining me on the program. It should be noted, by the way, this is a crowded primary. And I don't know if I'll be able to talk to everybody. This is one of the issues that I have just as a reporter sometimes. If you talk to one candidate in a race, do you then have to talk to every candidate in a race? I know if you're a broadcast network, you do. There's equal time, right? So if you're the local ABC affiliate, you talk to a candidate, you probably got to go talk to another candidate just to make sure everything's on the up and up. Same rule doesn't necessarily apply to online outlets like ours, but I want to be fair. I want to give folks the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to be reaching out to the campaign from the other, I guess, a big front runner. I think this is likely going to boil down to a two-person race there in the Republican side. There are about a dozen or so candidates who are running, but I think the two biggest, Bill Hagerty, who is a former U.S. ambassador to Japan. He is the candidate who has actually received the endorsement of President Donald Trump. And then Dr. Manny Sethi. I think that this primary is going to come down to those two gentlemen. So I do want to reach out to the Hagerty campaign and see if we can get Mr. Hagerty on the program as well, talking about his Second Amendment issues and his Second Amendment views. I will say that I don't think that there's much daylight between the two candidates. I don't think that Hagerty is an anti-gun candidate by any stretch of the imagination. I think it would be rather hard to run as a conservative in Tennessee as an anti-gun politician. But what really intrigued me about Dr. Sethi is his background, the fact that he is an orthopedic trauma surgeon, the fact that he does deal with gunshot wounds on a regular basis, because gun control advocates constantly tell us that people in Dr. Sethi's position automatically know what's best, and what's best is more gun control laws. And so when you have somebody like Dr. Sethi who's out there bucking that status quo in the medical community, I think that is definitely worth highlighting. Also worth highlighting today, our good deed of the day, our armed citizen story, and our recidivist report. We're going to start there with a story out of Utah, where two brothers who 4 years ago were convicted in the death of a Salt Lake police officer, already back out of this 4 years ago. Murder charges. Now they're back out on the streets, connected to multiple shootings in the Salt Lake City area. And I got to tell you, again, this story is it's going to take some deep breaths before we get started here. If you need some blood pressure medicine, might go ahead and take that too. KUTV says two brothers who are on parole or probation in connection with the death of West Valley City police officer Cody Brotherson back in 2016 are in trouble again. One of them is booked into jail. The other's hospitalized with gunshot wounds. Police believe 18-year-old Christopher Boggs and 17-year-old Lawrence Boggs were involved in a shooting at a gathering of 40 people at an extended stay motel over the weekend. A 17-year-old was shot during that incident, which police believe to be gang-related. Now, ordinarily, the media says they wouldn't be identifying 17-year-old Lawrence Boggs. However, he is permanently considered an adult in the Utah legal system because of his involvement in Officer Brotherson's death. So, according to KUTV, these brothers were actually released early because of coronavirus concerns. Yeah. Now, again, we've been told that, the only people who are getting out early, these are people who have been convicted of nonviolent offenses, or maybe they just have a few, weeks left on their sentence. Nope. Here are two individuals convicted in the death of a police officer, and they were let loose early, too. The story from KUTV back in, I guess it was just a couple days ago, May 28th was when one of the teenagers was released, earlier than his expected release date of October the 6th. By the way, he was going to get out in October anyway. 4 years for the death of this officer. Teen spent less than 4 years in custody for the death of Officer Cody Brotherson, killed in the line of duty. 3 teenagers accused of stealing a car, convicted of striking and killing Brotherson in November of 2016 as he attempted to help pursuing officers by putting spike strips down on the road. 16-year-old and 14-year-old, along with a 15-year-old friend, pleaded guilty to reduced charges. In July of 2017, teens were ordered to secure care at a juvenile detention facility, along with 1,000 hours of community service and 2,000 hours for the other 2. Boys could have been sentenced to serve time in the youth detention facilities until they turned 21, but they could not have been held beyond then. However, they were not held to that point, released earlier this year because of coronavirus concerns, and now already back behind bars. All right. Our armed citizen story of the day from Indianapolis, Indiana, where a woman shot and killed a man trying to break into her home on the city's east side. This is from CBS 4 in Indianapolis. Say 911 operators got a call in reference to a person shot just after 11:40 p.m. on Saturday night there in Indianapolis, Indiana. Investigators say a man trying to break into a residence before he was shot and killed by a woman who lived inside. Police had been called to that same home earlier in the day on Saturday, where a woman was stabbed and taken to the hospital. The woman who shot the man stayed at the scene, fully cooperating with police. Investigators calling this an isolated incident say the man who was shot and killed knew both women. On Monday, the coroner identified the man as 32-year-old David Ingram. Still, again, awaiting some details here, but this certainly does appear to be a clear-cut case of self-defense there in the city of Indianapolis. Finally today, our good deed of the day. And this, I got to tell you, this is a great story from Detroit, Michigan. Channel 4, Click on Detroit. The Detroit suburb of Sterling Heights. So Officer Cameron, officer, I'm not going to pronounce your name correctly, but let's go with Cameron Majewski. Saved a 3-week-old girl over the weekend. You can see that dash cam still there. It's amazing. Frantic mom handing her infant to Majewski as the family watched. He stayed calm, flipped the baby onto her stomach. He said, "Oh, there you go. She's crying." Sterling Heights Police Chief Dale Jaworski watched the video, said that Majewski is a hero. He said, "Talk about a heartwarming video. I'm so proud of my officer. He did just a great job, and we're very proud of him." Apparently, the infant had lost consciousness after drinking milk from a bottle, started choking. Chief Jaworski said, when a baby isn't breathing, it's stressful enough, but to arrive on scene and have the entire family run up to him, he knows it's bad, and he's calming them down while providing medical attention to the infant. According to the police chief, Majewski has been an officer there on the force for less than 2 years. And the chief said the fact that he performed well is, quote, an understatement. He absolutely saved a life. So in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Officer Cameron Majewski there in Sterling Heights, Michigan. We thank you, sir, for your very, very good deed. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as well. We will be back tomorrow with more of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation. But until then, make sure that you're checking out bearingarms.com throughout the day for more of the latest Second Amendment news from all across the United States and really around the globe as well. We might even have a update for you out of New Zealand, where Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern's gun ban and gun registration scheme, not going so well. Until then, be well, be safe, be free, and we'll see you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company.